I moved into the house in early October. It was old, the kind of house where the wooden floors creak even when nobody is walking. The walls smelled faintly of dust and old paint, and the windows rattled whenever the wind moved through the trees outside. But the rent was cheap, and the landlord didn't ask many questions. That should have been my first warning. The house had 3 floors. The ground floor had the living room and kitchen. The second floor had 2 bedrooms and a narrow hallway. And above that, there was a small attic. The attic door sat at the end of the hallway. It looked normal at first, until I noticed the lock. It was large, heavy, and placed on the outside of the door. When the landlord showed me the house, I asked about it. He glanced at the door and shrugged. "Just storage," he said, "old junk." But he didn't unlock it. He didn't even touch the handle. Instead, he quickly changed the subject and showed me the kitchen. At the time, I didn't think much about it. Old houses have strange things. For the first few days, everything felt normal, quiet, peaceful, almost too peaceful. The house made the usual sounds old houses make: wood shifting, pipes ticking, wind pushing softly against the windows. Nothing unusual until the 4th night. I woke up suddenly at 3:12 a.m. The room was dark except for the faint blue glow of my phone charging on the table. At first everything was silent. Then I heard it, a dragging sound above me, slow, heavy, like something being pulled across the attic floor. I sat up in bed listening. The sound continued for a few seconds, then suddenly stopped. The silence that followed felt wrong. I stared at the ceiling for several minutes, waiting, listening, but nothing else happened. Eventually, I convinced myself it was just the house settling. Old wood moves at night, at least. That's what I told myself. The next morning, I called the landlord. "Do you keep anything in the attic?" I asked. "No," he replied quickly. "Then why did I hear something moving up there last night?" There was a pause, then he laughed. "Probably rats." But the laugh sounded forced, too quick, too nervous. For the next 2 nights, nothing happened. Then on the 7th night, I woke up again, 3:12 a.m. Exactly the same time. This time the sound was clearer. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps walking across the attic floor. Step, step, step. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. "Hello?" I called toward the ceiling. The footsteps stopped instantly. Complete silence. Then I heard something else. A soft click, like a camera shutter. My stomach tightened. A camera? In the attic? The next morning I stood under the attic door. Something about the lock caught my attention. The metal looked clean. Cleaner than the rest of the door. Like it had been replaced recently. I grabbed a chair and climbed up. Carefully, I pressed my eye against a small crack in the wooden panels. At first I saw nothing, just darkness. Then something blinked. A tiny red light. Blink, blink, blink. My heart started racing. It looked exactly like the recording light on a camera. Someone had placed a camera in the attic, pointing down into the house, watching everything, watching me. That night I couldn't sleep. I stared at the clock, 3:10, 3:11, then 3:12. The footsteps returned, slow, heavy, walking across the attic floor. I climbed the chair again and looked through the crack. The red light was blinking, but this time I noticed something else. Breathing, slow breathing. Someone was definitely up there. "Listen," I said loudly. "I know someone is in there." The breathing stopped. Then a voice answered. Quiet, dry, almost whispering. "You're not supposed to be here." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" Silence. Then the voice spoke again. "This house isn't yours." My hands were shaking as I called the landlord. "There's someone in the attic." A long silence followed. Then he asked something strange. "Did you look inside?" "No." "Good," he said quickly. "Then don't." "What do you mean?" "You need to leave the house," he said, "tonight." My heart started pounding. "Why?" His voice dropped to a whisper. "Because if the camera is on, It means he woke up. At that exact moment, bang! Something slammed against the attic door. Dust fell from the ceiling. The door shook violently. "You have to leave now," the landlord whispered. Another bang echoed above me. Then the voice came again, but this time it sounded deeper. "Wrong. You opened the door last time too." My stomach dropped. "What last time?" The voice laughed. "You lived here before. That's impossible." "You always forget," the voice said. Then something slid under the attic door. A photograph. My hands trembled as I picked it up. It showed the living room, taken from above, from the attic. And standing in the middle of the room was me. But I wasn't alone. Behind me stood something tall and thin, watching. The voice whispered one last thing. "Go ahead. Open it again." Then the lock clicked. From the inside, the attic door slowly began to open. That was enough. I ran down the stairs, through the hallway, straight out of the house. I didn't stop running until I reached the end of the street. The next morning, I called the police. They searched the entire house, the living room, the bedrooms, the attic. But they found nothing. No person, no camera, nothing. They said it was probably stress or my imagination. But something didn't feel right. So I went to the town library and searched the house records. That's when I found the article. "Resident missing after late night disturbance." The missing person had lived in the same house. Neighbors reported strange noises from the attic. The police searched the house, but they found nothing except one thing: a camera in the attic, pointing down into the house. The next day I returned to collect my belongings. The house looked normal in daylight, quiet, peaceful, almost harmless. But when I stepped inside the living room, I noticed something on the ceiling, a small black camera. The red light was blinking, recording, slowly. I looked toward the stairs. The attic door was open. Then I heard footsteps. A shadow appeared at the top of the staircase. For a moment I felt relief. Maybe it was just a person. But when the figure stepped into the light, my heart stopped. It was me. Same face, same clothes, same expression. Standing at the top of the stairs, smiling. The thing tilted its head, like it was studying me, learning me. Then it took one step down, and that was the last thing I remember. Because later that evening, the police returned to the house. The front door was open, but the house was empty. No sign of me, just one strange detail, a camera in the attic. And on the recording, a man walks upstairs, but the man who comes back down is smiling. And he's not quite the same person. When the police asked the landlord if this had happened before, he sighed. "Yes," he said quietly, "it's happened a few times." "Then why keep renting the house?" the officer asked. The landlord looked toward the staircase. Then he smiled nervously. "Because eventually, it always comes back downstairs.